All right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I want to say all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the house of David. Salutations to you brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, teaching the truth in righteousness and sincerity. And to you Israelite foreigners, come back home to the truth. All right, I want to go into this book one last time. All right, I know from the last video, it had one really intense piece of information. A lot of good stuff, but the most of the good stuff is really within the first 100 pages. This is not a book that I would say go out and get. I'm gonna be honest. If it, unless you really want to just understand the mind frame of the Klan and the neo-Nazis, it's not a great read. Like I said, it has that though. So I'm gonna get into the last few excerpts that I'm gonna read from it. Chapter 9, Zog, the nature of the beast. First, notice they consider Zog the beast. Now, those of you that haven't been following this series, this is the third video of the series. Zog stands for Zionist Occupational Government. So that means, the so-called Jews that run the world, right? So reading on, as identity pastor Newman Britton is prone to state in his sermons, Jews are the beast. This is not us saying it. This is identity pastor Newman Britton. So-called Jews are the beast. All right, reading on. In their eyes, Jews are the one clear explanation for the troubles of the world, and America in particular. Historically, the Jews, the nation within nations, have not fared well when a society undergoing any type of difficulty has turned a jaundiced eye in their direction. Now, it's very important to understand, a lot of times when you read in history and you read about how bad the Jews were treated, that was also Israelites that were being treated that way. Real Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanic and Native Americans, ancestors in Europe. So you have to basically get an understanding of, when and where. The Jews that were expelled from Spain and Portugal, those was Israelites, not the so-called white man Jews. All right. But anyway, reading on page 104, it says, the idea that Jews, Salat, are international financiers who control the banks, users, slumlords, and opportunistic businessmen is held by any number of people who might not otherwise align themselves with the racial right or adhere to the racialist philosophy. So in other words, you don't have to be racist or subscribe to any type of racial identity beliefs to believe that the so-called Jews are international financiers, which this is what we've been saying. You see the sign that we have with the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the 13 rich banking families, though they're so-called Jews. These Orthodox Jews are low level compared to them. The real fake Jews that are the problem are the rich financial, the ones who control the banks. It says users, slumlords, opportunistic businessmen. That is what you find among all so-called, Jewish communities. But primarily the international financiers, those are the 13 banking families. So reading on, Nation of Islam is right in a lot of their beliefs, Charles Lee states. Of course, they're wrong in a lot of their beliefs too. They believe in separatism, and that's right. So that's one thing that they have in common with us as Israelites. We believe in separatism, right? It says, this is what they believe. Jews are killing America in slow doses, and every bit of it is intentional. So this is a so-called white hate group that believes that the so-called Jews are, I'm telling you, they hate them more than they hate us. They feel that the so-called Jews are destroying America. All right, reading on. It says they can shout equality all they like, but when armed blacks are roaming the streets, raping, killing, and burning, well, first thing I want to find out is what historical, uh, what history do you have that blacks roam the streets, raping, killing, and burning? Oh, I'm sorry, the L.A. riots and the, well, I didn't hear too much about raping. That's why I was kind of killing and burning. Yes, I didn't read too much about them raping, much of anybody or anybody at all for that matter. But it says, and the Jews are egging it all on. I won't need to tell anyone anything. So they believe that blacks are being led by the so-called Jews to do all this. It says, no one yells equality louder than the Jews, Stinson adds, and no one believes in it less. As far as their relations with non-Jews are concerned, they have a lousy track record. Look at Palestine. They're counting on a race war in America and doing everything they can to promote it, which is not far-fetched because who do you think owns the media that is egging on this race war? All right, so reading on, like I said, it kind of dies out after page 100. From page 108, I had to go all the way to 121 to see anything else that was anything halfway decent. Pastor Ray Barker of the Christian Israel Covenant Church of Colville, Washington, in his taped sermon, The Plot Against Christianity, asks the listener to consider the truth of communism by exposing the Jewish influence behind it. Karl Marx is actually Karl Mordecai to begin with, and Leon Trotsky is actually Leon Bronstein. Check that out. Here's another thing interesting. The Bolsheviks behind the Russian Communist Revolution. Now, mind you, this is when basically what they're saying is that the communism is a Jewish form of government. This is what they're saying. And it says the Bolsheviks behind the Russian Communist Revolution, he says, were New York Jews. So the most important thing that you have to understand about the Russian Communist Revolution is that this revolution is what actually took so-called black people out of power. The last stronghold that black people had control over in Europe was Russia. And we lost it to the Bolsheviks, which white hate groups say that those were Jews. All right, so going on to page 140. Yahweh created black people, and because he created them, he must have a purpose for them, and they must have a place in his scheme of things. This is Charles Lee. No, this is Darrell Flynn, by the way. One of these white hate bastards. Says, but I can't stand them. I absolutely hate a N-word just for being an N-word. I don't like reading the N-word with the ER. Sorry about that. So it goes to show you the level of hate. Charles Lee says Aryans should be true to their natures. Blacks should be true to theirs. In fact, we have to be. As for respect, I tell them, how can I respect you? You don't respect yourselves. So you're about to read something. You're about to see the white man cut how our people act. You don't take responsibility for yourselves. That's true. Israel, so-called black, Hispanics, and Native Americans is not in the truth. Even a lot of them that are in the truth don't respect themselves. You don't respect yourselves. You don't take responsibility for yourselves. You complain and yell the white man is holding you down. Yet in your own communities, you murder each other, rob, steal, rape, buy, sell, and use drugs. I don't see any white slave masters down there cracking a whip making you do these things. How am I responsible for that? Well, the answer for that is there's a white man that's behind everything and instigating it and giving us the drugs and the guns. So and the music business, too, is part of that, which is ran by the same so-called Jews these guys are talking about. I'm not saying that every black is a criminal or that every criminal is black. That's ridiculous. But what I am saying is that black people are a more violent people. They are disproportionately represented in crimes and in prison, which is also false because the thing is, the system convicts us more than it convicts them, even though the arrests, are not that far off. Now, reading on, let me show you to the level of hatred these bastards have for us. If a white woman marries a black man and gives birth to his child, then that child is a mamzer. No, the child is really an Israelite. But anyway, mamzer means bastard. Actually, in Hebrew, it means bastard, mamzer. A mongrel. Now, suppose that woman divorces the black man and marries a white man. She gives birth to another child by a white father. Is that child white? No, it is not, because the woman is polluted. She's black and the child is still a mamzer. It's all in the blood, which is not true because, you know, the sperm comes from the man. But this goes to show the level of hatred they have for, they're saying she's black. So if a white woman sleeps with a black man, they're saying she becomes black. You know, you see the level of hatred, and to a degree, it is true, because if a man puts his seed in a woman, that's his woman. They become one. So that is, but she doesn't actually change her nationality. So that part's a lie. All right, this is just to give you an idea of what they mean by the cross burning. It says it's not a cross burning, it's a cross lighting. This is page 160, by the way. The cross does burn, of course, but that's not the point. It's not some kind of satanic thing or a desecration, but a Christian ritual that originated in the Scottish Highlands, which really means that Israelites started it. It represents the light of Jesus Christ in the world and advancement of the Christian faith. This is Jim Stinson here. It says the old clans of Scotland would signal with burning crosses on the hillsides to call their people. All right? To call their people. Now, one thing I wanted to show you here. Very next page. The article names media bosses such as Leonard Goldenson of ABC, Lawrence Tish of CBS, which is actually the co-owner of the Giants' uncle, Lawrence Tish of CBS. Steve Tish is his nephew. And Summer Redstone of Viacom, as well as Samuel Newhouse of the print media, and any number of other Jews and minions of Jews who are actively engaged in anti-American propaganda. So they're saying that these people are so-called, basically the media is run by so-called Jews, is what they're saying. All right, so reading on, this is something that he has a point. All right, because our comedians make jokes about white people and theirs can't make fun of us. They have a point there. And this is part of what makes so-called white men mad. This is why there's this Make America Great Again thing, because, you know, it is unbalanced here. It says, how is it that comics such as Paul Rodriguez, Martin Lawrence, and Eddie Murphy, and others can make fun of whites in their speech, movements, dancing, etc., yet white comics are crucified if they attempt the same thing with other minorities as the butt of the joke? When Ted Danson showed up in blackface for a Hollywood affair as a joke with his black girlfriend, Whoopi Goldberg, he found himself harshly censured by his Hollywood peers and much of the rest of the nation for his racist behavior. But this is the thing. You know, this thing is instigated by the so-called Jews. So-called Jews are the ones that put things like this and blow it out of proportion, you know, and basically instigate, you know, us against each other, you know, to bring about this race war, you know, because everybody wants this race war, but Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. It's funny. Everybody wants the race war, but us, you know, and the thing is, that's why it's taking so long, is because Black, Hispanic, and Native American people don't want to fight, you know, and to be quite honest, anybody that's part of the Hebrew Israelites, we're not going to fight outside of protecting ourselves. You know, this fight is going to be brought on by those out there. You know, you're going to have zealots. You're going to have, people that are just fed up with the society, and they're the ones that's going to do the race war and all that. Israelites, we're going to protect ourselves, and we're going to try to survive until the reckoning, when Yahushua comes back and Lord willing saves us. All right, so reading on, it says the Ku Klux Klan in general is against race mixing, homosexuals, integration, affirmative action, immigration, the quota system. Quota system is things like you have to hire a certain amount of blacks and all that, which doesn't actually benefit so-called black people as much as it benefits gays and women and transgenders and all that shit. But anyway, progressive income tax, welfare, GATT, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Israel, Jews, hate crime laws. So they're against the laws. And I agree. Hate crime. What's a hate crime? Dude, I would never, I can't say that I've ever committed a crime in my life against somebody that I love. So that kind of sounds stupid. I never beat up somebody because I love them, Gun control, they're against gun control. The Zionist occupational government, federal government, the United Nations, and any number of other practices, organizations, and individuals, many of which are the element of more socially acceptable political views. All right, so as you can see, we have some things in common with the Ku Klux Klan, other than the fact that we don't pick up guns and physically hurt people. We're against homosexuals. We're against integration. Affirmative action, we're not going to have no fucking affirmative action. You're going to be slaves and we're going to be dominating. Immigration, not so much of a problem. The quota system, we're not going to have it. We're not necessarily against it. Progressive income tax, listen, you have tithes. Welfare, it depends. I don't know what GATT is, NAFTA, CFR. We're definitely against NAFTA and CFR and the Trilateral Commission. Israel, meaning the modern state of Israel, yes, we are against them in the spirit. We'll never physically hurt them, but in the so-called Jews, yeah, we're against them too. Hate crime laws, it's whatever on that. We actually are gonna have our own laws in the heavens. Gun control, we have the right to have them. That's not going to get us out of here. Guns don't do anything for us if we're in the truth. But there's nothing wrong with having it according to scripture. The Zionist occupational federal government, yeah, that's evil. The United Nations actually all can be interchangeable with United Gentiles, because the word Goyim means nations and it means Gentiles, because the nations are Gentiles. And any other number of other practices, organizations, and individuals, many of which are elements of more socially acceptable political views. All right, so reading on, this is the last excerpt that I'm going to read. Let's see. Page 201. That's the last thing that I'm going to read. 201. All right, here we go. Oh, this is what they... Oh, here's what the Ku Klux Klan had in store if they would have succeeded during the time of David Duke, which David Duke is still alive, and he is active in politics. David Duke, former Imperial Wizard of the Louisiana Klan, who as a Republican candidate once won a seat in the Louisiana House of Representatives, a known racist, actually won a seat in the House of Reps, has gone to a great deal of trouble to shed his racist image. However, while still involved in the Klan, Duke undertook an effort to outline a map of how the United States should be reorganized. Now check this out. He made a map, which I don't have access to. I don't, maybe we could Google it, but how the United States should be reorganized. So, in other words, full segregation. Full segregation. And we're going to read it in a second here. All right, let's see. Yeah, he had plans of segregating America. Check this out. Should be reorganized to include such countries as West Israel for so-called Jews, New Africa for blacks, Navajona for Native Americans, New Cuba for the Cubans, Haitians, etc. Alta for California for Mexicans, East Mongolia for Asians, and Minoria for other minorities. So he actually named these countries within. He's basically saying divide the United States among different countries and have certain countries, certain, parts of the country like West Israel for the so-called Jews, New Africa for the so-called blacks. You already know, you've seen it. Basically, New Cuba would be for the Caribbeans. Navajona would be for the Native Americans. Alta California for the so-called Mexicans. So I would believe that all the other Southern and South Americans would probably be there. And he separated us from the Asians. And of course, he separates himself from us. So for those that do that Negro-only doctrine and teach that, so-called white man, the Hispanics are so-called white, David Duke wanted a different country for all of us. He split the tribes up. Judah would be in New Africa. Gad and Reuben would be in Navajona. Simeon, Levi, Manasseh, Ephraim, and Benjamin would be in New Cuba. Naphtali, Asher, Issachar, and Zebulon would be in Alta California. So with that, this just basically goes into the mind of so-called white supremacists. I'm going to say shalom.